baby. Woo.
I had to skip the intro. I skipped it because I had to catch Dan with a little rant there. I had to catch it with a little rant. But now, we're live, but we're going to go into the... Dan, I wanted to see if you were... I know. Let's freaking go. The gang's back together. All three of us are here. Welcome back to another episode of Dynasty Theory. I'm John Bauer. Find me on Twitter at the Bauer Club, all that good stuff. We have the man, Mitch Sorensen, at DynoMC on Twitter. What's up, Mitch?
You went in a different order. I wasn't ready. But what's up? How's it going, guys?
Good. You got to wake up. You're working those long days, that treacherous 3-day work week. I don't want to hear it.
It's
anymore.
A rough life I live.
Yeah, I don't want to hear it. And then his triumphant return. It's like The Rock, Dan. Finally, Dan has come back to Dynasty Theory. Dan Lamagna at FF Coach Dan. What's up, Dan?
Boys, I missed you, man. And I'll bring the spice tonight. Don't worry. If Mitch needs to, relax a little bit, kick his feet up tonight, I'm ready to bring it. It was a long season, guys. That extra extended season, that extra week into the season, the long playoffs, the body got worn down, and the brain especially was on DFS overloaded. So I just needed to refresh, see the trainers, the Dynasty Theory athletic training team, refresh, and I'm ready to lock and load now. So let's do it.
Well, our health benefits aren't too great here through Dynasty Theory LLC, but it's good to have you back. And I was hoping that rant, you were so upset with the Super Bowl. You said coaching, poor coaching, right? Poor coaching.
It was a close game, so we all like that. It went down. We had to watch to the end, close game, but it was poor coaching. I mean, for the Rams to keep them in it with the 2 turnovers, Beckham gets hurt, vanilla running game running up the middle, and then Cincinnati says, nope. We're going to find a way to lose here. $48 million Joe Mixon on the bench there on 2 key third and ones. And then you might have caught at the beginning of the show my rant where, again, came in with a good game plan. I watched Donald be double and triple team. But the last game play, 4th and 1. There's no tomorrow. We're just going to put P. Ryan out in a route who shouldn't be in there. Try to block Donald one-on-one. And obviously we saw how that worked out. Very disappointing.
It worked out very well.
For the Rams.
But let's get back into Dynasty focus. I am like, Mitch, I don't think you're as excited as I am. But the fact that the DFS season is over, and I know a lot of people love DFS. Dan loves DFS. I get it. But now it's full Dynasty focus from everybody. Yeah. And then there's people that we'll see, they disappear and we'll see them again in 6 months.
Yeah, it's for the next 6-7 months, like you said, it's purely Dynasty until August, and it's a beautiful time. We have the combine hitting. We have so many different things that are going to be adjusting players' values, and today we're going to hit what happened during the playoffs, but after this, it's JB's favorite time of year, spreadsheet football.
Hey, spreadsheet football started about November already for me. I was going in there looking at the rookie data and had to revise it several times because I was actually pulling the data in before the college season even ended. So I was like, gotta adjust this guy. But Mitch, like you said, we do want to talk about a little recap of the playoffs and the way we're going to look at this and the spin we're going to put on it. We always talk about perceived value. It's one of my buzzwords. If we were playing a drinking game and the listeners had to drink every time I say the word perceived, I don't think anybody would be sober after about 15 minutes. But we talk about perceived value. And even though there were no dynasty fantasy implications with the playoffs, there are shifts in value. And I want to talk about that a little bit tonight. I want to focus on that because, like you said, Mitch, after this week, and keep in mind, every Tuesday night, every Tuesday, we're back. All right. And then on the Patreon every Friday, I'll be spitting on an episode talking about, values, of course, but also market inefficiencies and ways to take advantage. So that's going to be on the Patreon every Friday. Mitch, you'll be jumping on every once in a while. Mm-hmm. Dan, it's during the day, and I know you're a busy man. You're a busy man.
I'm gonna pick up some slack there with some dysfunctional rankings coming out soon, but I'm gonna save that for the final thoughts.
Okay. Let's not jump the gun. But anyway, so before we get into free agency, the combine, the NFL draft, and all that good stuff. Talking about the playoffs, what we saw from several players, and Dan, you kind of touched on it already. But the Rams, that vanilla run game that we saw pretty much throughout the entire playoffs. Mitch, I want to throw it over to you first, because your player, it directly ties in with a player that saw a drop in value as the playoffs progressed from that bland vanilla run game in Los Angeles, none other than Cam Akers.
Yeah, so going into this offseason and in August, all the redraft guys were really huge on Akers getting, a lot of them were saying the most attempts in the league, right? And a lot of that came because in the playoffs, in just the 2 games, he had like 220 yards rushing. He had a couple scores. And so you could see that they're building into something. But you look at this offseason, I think they played 4 games. He had like 172 rushing yards and no touchdowns. Right. And when you just see that in the back of everyone's mind, it's going to be, I don't know if he's going to come back. So in that, just like you said, the perceived value, I think there's going to be a lot more people who are going to drop him down their rankings than are actually going to just hold him still. I'm leaving him right where he is. I'm not touching him. I think it was more of a product of how the plays were being called than what he was doing by himself. But I think in the dynasty landscape itself, his value dropped quite a bit. I think he could have been, with a decent playoff run, he would have been a 2nd round pick. Now I think he's going to be late 3rd, 4th round in a 12-team startup right now.
All right, there's a lot to unpack there and digest. Where did you have him? And you say you didn't move him much, if at all. So what are we looking at across the running back landscape, maybe even in terms of startup values?
Well, John, since you made my tiers all pretty, I could pull this up now because like it looks beautiful now. But I had him closer to J.K. Dobbins, Antonio Gibson, right in that tier, to where now I think a lot of people are probably going to drop him below Dobbins. I think Dobbins is going to go ahead of him in most situations. I think Gibson's going to go ahead of most situations. I think we could see Joe Mixon going really close to him, to where I don't think that would have been the case a month ago.
It's funny, and Dan, I'll kick it over to you here shortly, but it's funny that you said you haven't moved Cam Akers, Mitch. I was obviously a little bit lower on him to begin with. I haven't really moved most of my running backs throughout the last several weeks, but those players you mentioned, J.K. Dobbins, and I think this goes with just my love for J.K. Dobbins.
You have a lot of love for J.K. Dobbins.
I'm a big Dobbins guy. And if you remember going into his rookie campaign, he was a guy that I liked pre-NFL draft, post-NFL draft. And I had Dobbins significantly higher, 2 tiers, Antonio Gibson higher, Mixon higher. But I think what we're going to see with Cam Akers, it is an overcorrection. As soon as we found out he was coming back, man, this guy is a monster. Return to play in what, less than 7 months? A torn Achilles? You don't hear this. You don't see this with running backs. It was a death sentence previously for running backs, especially running backs. But now he's coming back. People are like, oh, he's a top 5 running back. The value is there if you wanted to cash out. But now I think his value is so fragile because of that injury, because of that Achilles injury. He was a little, underwhelming throughout the playoffs. And if people were like, okay, I'm going to fade him because of the injury, this is their validation. This is them saying, hey, I was right. Look at the way he performed. Look at that run game. Cam Akers, there's no explosion there. So like you said, Mitch, it's perfect because it's going to be in the back of everybody's minds for the next 6.5, 7 months. So I think you're right. There is a significant drop from what we saw when he first returned, to play. But I think where he is now is where he should have been previously. So I think it's an overcorrection to right the ship, if you will. Dan?
Didn't he disappoint you guys though? Like I'm one of those players right now that it is in my mind. And I was really hoping it would correct itself a little more in the Super Bowl. I'm thinking, you know what? He came back from that injury. He was kind of thrown into the wolves. I know there was a little a shoulder injury in the NFC Championship game, but he had an extra week of rest. And all of a sudden, man, it's the Darrell Henderson show. And I'm like, this is the biggest game of the year. And then now the Rams, they're going to have to replace a left tackle, which is a big loss. They don't have the draft capital. I mean, I have some concerns about the Rams and Akers moving forward. I just watch him run into the line, say he doesn't even have the burst. Man, there was no vision in that game. Like, I would have loved to see him try to bounce something. I was underwhelmed.
But do you think we saw any explosion from Darrell Henderson throughout the playoffs?
He just came back from injury too, and they threw him out to the Wolves. Like, I'm really not sure where the Rams.
Then what about Sony Michel? That run game was atrocious throughout the playoffs. It was bad. Yeah. So I'm not saying. Listen, I'm not sitting here defending and trying to make excuses for Cam Akers by any means. Again, I think his value is accurately reflected as it stands today. So I do think if you were stuck with a share and for some reason you didn't capitalize and maximize that potential return that we saw as soon as he came back, if you sold at face value today, I think you're still getting a fine return, especially if you acquired him after that Achilles injury. You bought low. I think you still get a profit here.
Agreed.
I can see that. And we know the Rams are investing in them. I just think we kind of know the Rams at this point. So I'm just capping a little bit of upside because, I still have those flashbacks to the end of last year. We were high on him, and I'm not seeing that. So I'm concerned. But good points. I don't disagree.
Mitch, 12-team Superflex. Cam Akers or Zach Wilson?
Oh, that's tough when you're doing the quarterback. I'll go Zach Wilson.
There was one episode we did a long time ago, and I gave you guys a rapid fire, and you were like, JB, these are freaking awful. Because you were just
I remember those.
Boom, boom,
yeah,
boom,
they
boom,
were
boom.
Bad.
Josh in the chat, not sure Emmitt Smith could have gained any yards the way the Rams executed those run plays in the Super Bowl.
Emmitt would have bounced a couple, Josh. I know I'm a Homer Cowboy fan, but he would have bounced a couple of them and tried to make something happen.
All right, so Mitch is going Zach Wilson. One more cross-positional. Dan, are you going to go Kirk Cousins or Cam Akers, 12-team Superflex?
God, I like Mitch's upside better. I like his, but I'm still going to go with Kirk Cousins. I'd rather invest the Superflex quarterback with stability versus the question mark platoon running back.
So I think we're talking about like early 5th round startup ADP.
He's going way before that still, I think. I think he'll end up going before that.
Yeah. The face you made, Mitch, I agree with that face. I had a little throw up in my mouth when I said Kirk Cousins over Cam Akers. But I know the value of the two quarterbacks in the Superflex. Yeah. So.
But what do I say? What is always my rant with ADP? It just takes one person.
Yep. That's why I think Akers is going to end up going higher than Cousins.
Right. And I can see that. Yep. But and we always go back to, well, it's different in existing leagues. Mm-hmm. That's where it's going to be interesting. I think when you look at it that way, it's kind of like that 5th round. Dan, one more for you now. We're going to go running back. David Montgomery or Cam Akers?
Monty, baby. I like Monty. Hopefully with some coaching changes, it gets a little better too.
Mitch, Derrick Henry or Cam Akers? If you remember,
Cam Akers.
Just a few days ago.
That's not even fair, JB. You know he's a Henry hater.
Wait, Dan messages me after the show on Friday. And this was a really quick turnaround for us. We did last week's show on Friday, this week's show tonight, obviously on Tuesday. And Dan messages me, what is Mitch doing? What is he talking about? He wouldn't move an early second for Derrick Henry.
Oh, it hurt me, Mitch. I fell out of my chair. I had to message John right away. I was all discombobulated.
I get it. I just don't think you're going to get a first for Henry. And if you do, you trade a first for Henry, he's not going to move off your roster, in my opinion. Like, he's just there.
But I wasn't there to counter on that last episode. Yeah. Well, why do you want to move him? We always talk about 3-year windows in Dynasty. We're not looking 5 years down the road. Like, I'm just going to ride Henry till he dies and give me a chance to win a championship this year. I'll roll the dice on not getting that 2nd-round pick.
Probably got 6 months then.
I think Henry's got at least 2 good seasons in him. He's just not your normal running back.
All right, back to the matter at hand, gentlemen. Back to the matter at hand. So, Dan, would you go Derrick Henry over Cam Akers today?
I still go with King Henry. And to Jeffrey's point in the chat with Monty, and to we were talking about Akers earlier, when Akers first came back this postseason, I would not take Monty before Akers. The coach in me, I enjoy watching Monty run, even though the Bears offense had issues. So I'm with Monty right now and Derrick Henry.
All right, Mitch, one more since Derrick Henry was too easy. Josh Jacobs or Cam Akers?
Oh, Cam Akers. Jacobs isn't even in the discussion with Akers.
Okay. But again, let me say what I was doing. I'm looking at my tiers. Exclusive bonus content over on the Dynasty Theory Patreon, $5 a month. Rest of February is free. Sign up, free, get a refund, test it out. You'll love it.
The proper question you should have asked me is Kenneth Walker or Cam Akers.
Jesus Christ, get out of here.
Because then I can't say Cam Akers.
But I'm looking, let me clarify why I'm throwing these running backs and quarterbacks at you. That set of running backs, Henry, Montgomery, Jacobs, Etienne, Spiller, I have right below Cam Akers in a tier.
You should have Walker above him.
I'm with JB in that tier. I like how you put that, and I think that's pretty accurate. And Josh Jacobs, I want to say I am Las Vegas is one of those teams I'm a little bit more intrigued with Josh McDaniels and Lombardi as their offensive coordinator.
All right, one wide receiver for each of you very quickly. Cam Akers or Terry McLaurin, Dan?
I'll build around the wide receiver and the youth and McLaurin. Hopefully he gets the quarterback.
He's like 38 by now, isn't he?
He's not that old.
Terry McLaurin actually just got his AARP card last week. Mitch, a little bit younger, a little bit. Deontay Johnson or Cam Akers? Last rapid fire question.
Oh, Cam Akers. You know I don't want Deontay Johnson anymore.
Okay, so it sounds like from all of that, while his value may have dropped, you still might be on the side to acquire Cam Akers.
We all know how stubborn I am when it comes to these things, so it's probably by a fault more than anything. I know. Surprising. I know.
But I think that's fair. Again, these are guys that I have just a tier below, but that's where we talk about the market inefficiencies. And it went from Cam Akers up to top 5 because he's a Greek god coming back from the Achilles, Greek god. Was Achilles Greek?
John's bad jokes have not left us.
They're still here.
Coming back.
Anyway, we could spend all night on Cam Akers. It's been 17 minutes. We're through one player. There's going to be a 4-hour extravaganza. All right, Dan, a player that you think lost value throughout the playoffs. Give a little more of an in-depth look at one of them. We'll kind of break it down, and then you can rattle through the rest.
So my focus tonight was on the quarterback position. I kind of had a feeling my boy Mitch would go the Akers route there, and with good reason. So I look at the quarterback position. Man, JB, you're making me pick one here. I mean, I have 3 guys definitely, and one that I just think lost some shine.
All right, screw it. Throw all of them at us. Let's go.
I appreciate it. And then you can pick one, JB, for me. I'll alley-oop it to you here. But when I watch the playoffs, and I love the playoffs because, you know, where I'm high maintenance and still in DFS mode, and it's like the greatest time ever, and you're already looking at rookies, I'm still scouting for next year. And Ryan Tannehill, Jalen Hurts, and Kyler Murray, I do not believe they all underperformed. And it wasn't because of a lack of pass protection. It wasn't because of weapon issues. You maybe say, hey, Tannehill didn't have the most explosive weapons around him and could use receiver help, but he still had A.J. Brown and Derrick Henry back, and they were rolling and they were protecting them. The decisions that these quarterbacks made really, it for me took Tannehill from that kind of underrated tier of quarterbacks to down a few notches because I'm questioning him a bit. Jalen Hurts, I'm questioning whether he could really throw the ball in the NFL and if this is going to work long term. And Kyler Murray, man, his just body language and just like it's the same story year after year of him just kind of fizzling out. I'm not feeling it. I think all those guys dropped in value, and they will all be reflected in my rankings.
And I think it's going to be reflected in a lot of people's rankings. And it's funny because, just my quick thoughts on Tannehill. I'm with you. We talked about him on Friday for a second. I told Mitch I don't want to talk about Ryan Tannehill, somebody that I have rostered on a ton of my teams because of the price point that he was going in startups, the cost to acquire in existing leagues. So I was so frustrated with him, not just looking at him in the playoffs, hoping for that spike in value, but I do think a lot of people just fed up with him from a fantasy standpoint. JC in the chat, good call, Dan. Jalen Hurts, I don't want to say I have not done a 180. I've not done a 180, but maybe like a a little bit of like a 45-degree angle coming back a little bit. All right. So far from a 180, but somebody that, like, do we think there is anything to these reports? And a lot of people, like Albert Breer's coming out saying the Eagles are going to be a heavy hitter and really try to land a quarterback. A couple weeks ago, and again, that's just Albert Breer's opinion. That's one person's opinion. But a couple weeks ago, it sounded like we had the full stamp of approval. Jalen Hurts is our guy. We have the first round picks. Let's build around him. So there's a question there, but I think Jalen Hurts, his value, I think it's still insulated for the most part, Dan. So that's when I don't know if it's dropped that much. But the last one that you mentioned, Kyler Murray, this is going to kill one of my trade negotiations. I guaranteed. I'm in the middle of talks right now to acquire Kyler Murray. But Kyler Murray and Lamar Jackson, two guys that have seemingly fizzled a little bit. I'm going out and acquiring them if I can. And I think their overall price has dropped a little bit, those two quarterbacks.
Hey, they could both run. There's still value. They're both, I believe, going to be the starters next year. I'm not really buying Albert Breer's takes. Who knows? But, Hurts opened that window to have that conversation, and that's a media hype up until draft day, without a doubt. But when it comes time for whether it's startups or trade talks, and we're looking at our tiers, where they were before the playoffs to where they are now is different. Jalen Hurts faced some good coaching there in Tampa Bay, and they knew, hey, we're going to make the Eagles beat us in the passing game, and they couldn't do it. He couldn't do it. I'm just not optimistic he could grow that much and be the answer to the question there. And it's the same thing with Kyler Murray, who, whether it's health or attitude or performance, that's an 0 for 3, man.
All right, Mitch, Jalen Hurts, I want your thoughts here. Tell me when to stop. Tell me which of these quarterbacks, and we did this on Friday, and I liked it. It was quick. Which of these quarterbacks you would take Jalen Hurts over? Okay. Mahomes, Allen, Herbert, Dak, Lamar, Kyler, Burrow, Stafford, Fields, Lance, Russ, Lawrence, Deshaun Watson. Interesting case there.
Roll the dice on Watson.
Keep going. Okay. Rodgers. You would take Rodgers over Hurts. Okay.
Yep.
Tua.
Yep.
Kirk Cousins.
Sorry. Tua. So I have him in a tier above Tua, Cousins, and Wentz.
Okay.
I really should drop Wentz down. I just haven't.
I was just going to say,
Wentz should not be there, but
Wentz is even worse.
Yeah.
All right.
So him and Zach Wilson, I see they both have that same, who knows what's going to happen next year. Both have good upside. Both have dust downside to where you could get nothing for them at the end of next year. So that's kind of how I see him.
The risk is certainly there. Looking at Kyler, Dan, would you prefer Trey Lance or Kyler? And that's a question from Jeff in the chat.
I'm still high on Lance from last year. Again, it took him longer to develop, and I think that made sense. Like, I loved Lance last year. He just never got the opportunity. It was Jimmy Garoppolo's gig. This year, I believe he is going to get the opportunity and be the man. I do believe in his future, so I would take Trey Lance. I do not.
No, come on.
Let's put it this way: if it's Lance to me and it's Murray or Lance, maybe I should rephrase this. I would take Murray based on value, but I would rather you take Murray, make some kind of trade, and settle at Lance a little bit later and take the value. He's going to be a better NFL quarterback.
It is
Kyler Murray's the coach of me. I can't take it. I'm a coach at heart. His attitude is terrible, and he's not performing either. Maybe Nuke Hopkins wasn't there, but
he's not performing. He averaged 22 points per game in 2021. As many as Patrick
When the going
Mahomes.
was good. When the going was good, he didn't need it to be good to still have a fantasy production on a weekly basis. I think Trey Lance is going to pass out Kyler Murray is what I'm saying. He's another running quarterback. He's with a better organization with better talent around him. He's a good kid. Kyler Murray, I'm telling you, in time, I believe Trey Lance will be better. That's my bold prediction here tonight on Dynasty Theory.
It's not that bold.
And that's what.
Look at that there. I got support.
You too, Mitch?
Okay, so I'm not Trey Lance over him, but I will say with Kyler Murray, this has happened with every year of his career. He starts out hot, at the end, it fizzles down. It's happened every single year so far.
See, but you have a bad taste in your mouth because of the way the Cardinals perform at the end of the season.
As does his dynasty value because he doesn't perform at the end of the season. So Dan and I both have someone written down on someone we believe his value has gone up, right? That we're going to talk about soon. Kyler Murray is not going to go above him in 90% of leagues, I don't think. And so that means Kyler Murray is going to drop. And I could see Kyler Murray going closer to Trevor Lawrence than he is closer to going to Lamar Jackson now.
No. There's a red flag.
We're gonna do a startup. Here, this is for you, JB. I'm holding the red flag for you. We're gonna do a startup, and you know where Kyler Murray's gonna go. And I'm gonna be like, bye, thank you. I don't want him on my roster anyway. I will try to get a Trey Lance.
So hold on. John, who's gonna go first in a startup? Dak or Kyler?
I mean, Dak, people are down on Dak too.
But who's gonna go first in startup now?
I think Kyler would still go first today.
No, okay.
Before Dak.
I need
this
to see
isn't
Dallas
gonna work.
shore.
Then I want to go more names.
I like Dak, but I need to see Dallas shore up the O-line and know what they're doing at wide receiver.
What about Arizona's O-line?
But again, the rushing upside of these quarterbacks and their escapability, you're able to alleviate those concerns and those issues. It's not like you have a statuesque quarterback behind a horrid offensive line. And I don't even like Kyler Murray. How am I the one taking a stand to defend him and talk some sense into anybody here? God, I don't even know if anybody's listening right now.
JB, that 13-point week 14, that 12-point week 15, when it counted most for us in Dynasty, and Kyler was And our question is looking at the playoffs where it got even.
Listen, I do not disagree. And I put together a little list on my own, just several names, just the first thing that popped in my head. Kyler Murray is somebody who I do think his value dropped. I do think that.
Little Johnny's behaving better than him. Your son is behaving better than Kyler Murray right now.
And they're the same height, coincidentally. But you're telling me there was no way in hell, Mitch. And you're looking up something like you're going crazy over there. But there is no way you take part in a startup today that Kyler Murray is closer to Trevor Lawrence in startup ADP compared to Lamar Jackson. There's no way.
Why?
I don't know.
Okay, in my opinion, okay, I take Mahomes over him. I take Allen over him. I take Herbert over him.
Yep, no questions asked.
I take Lamar. I take Dak. I take who we're going to bring up in the future, Joe Burrow.
Okay.
Exactly the same as Mitch.
And it's Fields and Lawrence.
Wait, you're going to take Fields and Lawrence?
No,
over?
I'm just saying that's where I see Kyler now. So I see him closer to Fields
to those guys
than I do to Lamar. I don't think that's crazy.
Wait, we're switching up. So I thought you saw him closer to Lawrence then.
Yeah.
And then you just said Fields. So which one is it?
Well, they're in that tier.
Fields and Lawrence are right together for me.
Yeah, I'm not disagreeing there.
I thought you just yelled at me for that.
I did yell at you, but still, if you were in a startup, if Lamar Jackson goes quarterback 5, Kyler Murray's 6 or 4 even.
I don't think so. I think he's going to be closer to 10, and then Fields will go right after him.
All right, well, then
go right after.
I do think he goes higher where JB has him. Someone's going to take him, Mitch.
Well, then I have a mission here. I have a personal goal that I have to do, throughout the rest of this week. Go out, MFL, it rolled over today. I have to go out and acquire some Kyler Murray.
He's 7th in my dynasty rankings right now, but I don't want him even though he's 7th. So if my draft lands there, I'm going to try to trade out of it.
Who do you have 8th?
It depends how my rankings are a little fluid, but the names I have there are Aaron Rodgers, Russ Wilson, Trevor Lawrence.
Pretty close to Lawrence.
Right after him.
I could see that. That's fair.
Rodgers is ancient, so I'm not saying I would draft him. I'm just looking at production and, assuming he's going to give a few more years.
Well, I feel a sneeze coming on here. I'm allergic to all your bullshit. I caught myself. Listen,
Let's see. Hey, we got more names to go over
Hold
here.
on, real quick. In my tiers, I have Kyler with Dak, Lamar, and Burrow. And then the tier following, I have Stafford, Fields, Lance, Russ, and Lawrence. So I'm not saying Lawrence is like quarterback 30 and Kyler is, quarterback 1, but he is still going to be going closer. He's still going to be that first round startup ADP. JC says, I'm with Dan. Hope someone takes Kyler so I can grab Fields or Lawrence. And that's always the conversation where would you prefer a player straight up, but do you prefer them at their value? Because then you could pivot off of them and acquire. And if that's the goal, fine. But I want to make sure nobody's taking Trey Lance over Kyler Murray. We have to right the wrongs here, guys.
That's fair.
All right, Mitch, who rose in value for you?
I don't even know where you are now. Let's go with Joe Burrow. We're on the quarterbacks now, so we might as well talk about it.
Mitch.
Okay. So, before he started, I thought he was very firmly in the same as Justin Fields. That's just where he was. And Justin Fields, Trevor Lawrence, Matthew Stafford, he was just right there with those guys, right? I think after what we've seen in the playoffs and the hype he's going to get, there's going to be one person that ends up taking him closer to quarterback 4 than they do quarterback 7. So that means I see him going over Lamar in a lot of cases. I see him going over Dak in a lot of cases. I definitely see him going over Kyler in a lot of cases. It's just there's going to be someone that buys into that hype to where it's going to be really hard to ever get him. Like if you're at pick 108 now, I think it's going to be extremely hard to get him in a startup.
Yeah, I might be that guy too. It was a year ago that I took Justin Herbert before Kyler Murray, before, Dak Prescott, even my boy, and people were yelling at me in our Champions League. I think Joe Burrow's kind of close to that. The only, Cincinnati, I hope they fix that O-line in the offseason. I'll be watching it closely, but I agree. Look what he did in the postseason, despite an average O-line, despite an average head coach. All right, they performed. He's a talented kid.
But should Joe Burrow's value have risen because of what he did in the playoffs? 5 passing touchdowns in 4 games.
Yes, because he's tied to Jamar Chase. And what Jamar Chase can do every single week, there's not a lot of people on the planet that can do the same thing. He might be the only one, to be honest. He's that good of a wide receiver. And I never gave him the credit. Like, I always had him as wide receiver 1 as a rookie, right? I didn't think he would be the best wide receiver in football right now. And he is.
For me, I think what he did against the Ravens and Chiefs, those last 2 games of the season, I think that bumped him up even a little bit higher than his value would be today. I think over the grand scheme of things, looking at it, Joe Burrow's value has risen significantly. And now we're talking about him in kind of that second tier, maybe behind Mahomes, Allen, and Herbert. But then if you want to take him 4 through 7, great. I have no issue there. But I think it actually he would have been more of a lock for that 4 or 5 spot if we saw a little bit more out of him in the playoffs. So I think the grand scheme of things, last 6 weeks, sure, his value has risen, but like, you're seeing what I'm saying.
There was so much hype, but I think he did rise with all that Cincinnati hype, Cinderella story, underdog team coming from behind, down 14 points. I think there's enough hype to carry him in there. To your point, JB, if the production was more, it'd be locked. It'd be locked. So maybe it's not, everybody's going to be there. But I think, as Mitch said, there'll be somebody. There's going to be people that are going to take him, or are just going to believe. Like I said, I might be one of them where I'm putting him closer to Herbert and really love his upside potential.
Now, would you capitalize on the hype here? I know we talked about Kyler. Like I said, for Kyler, I'm looking to acquire. If you have Joe Burrow on your roster, would you look to capitalize and maximize that value? We have a question. Where'd it go? Hail State. What needs added to Kyler for Joe Burrow? I wouldn't add anything.
I agree. I think you hopefully the person you're trading wants Kyler.
Here's what you do.
Yourself, Burrow.
Here's what you do. You pull up John's tiers or my tiers. Doesn't matter, right? You offer Murray and Higgins Murray and Devontae Smith for Higgins and Burrow, right? So you don't try to trade the 1-for-1 because the person's going to sniff that out. You try to do the 2-for-2 and hope they end up liking that wide receiver a little bit more than the one you're trying to grab off their team. Because if you go 1-for-1, it's going to be extremely hard to get it done.
Anytime, I'm going to tell you right now, anytime somebody comes at me, like let's say, Mitch, you offer me Murray for Burrow, I clearly know the cat's out of the bag.
Yeah.
You prefer Burrow to Kyler. So why would I not think you're willing to add anything? Even if it's a third, or give me a late second, I'll kick back a late third, something like that. I know there's that wiggle room because you clearly prefer him. Am I going to be able to price gouge you and get, to a little bit of a hyperbole, get Cam Akers thrown in? No, absolutely not.
So you gave the listeners good advice there, JB. If you do like Burrow and you want to move Murray, you need to ask for something more. Don't show your hand that you want Joey Burrow more. Try to get an upgrade on your roster somewhere else, hoping that person's saying, hey, I'd rather have Kyler. So there's an opportunity for you to get more and still be happy with Joe Burrow.
But you don't want to go overboard. You don't want to, like I said, that Cam Akers in that situation. You're going to have them walk away from the negotiation instantly.
Yeah, that's why you mix and match.
Mix and match. All right. See, I think that's an opportunity. Like, especially the way I'm looking at those two. If I have Burrow, and I do believe that there still is hype despite what I said, 5 touchdowns in 4 games throughout the playoffs. There's enough going on with Kyler Murray, deleting everything on social media having to do with the Cardinals. The reports coming out that he pulled himself out of that last minute of the game. He says, I'm not going back in there. The seemingly childish behavior. I think if I had Burrow, I could get Kyler plus. I think that could happen. And I think that's an opportunity that I would look to explore personally, because I still have Kyler, and I mentioned Lamar Jackson, obviously not walking away from his team and wiping everything off of his social media. But still, I think people were down on Lamar a little bit and kind of forget that ceiling that he has offered whenever he was healthy. So that's, something I'm looking at. Dan, who's somebody that rose for you in value?
I like stacks. I like stacks. So we talked about Burrow. I like that you mentioned Higgins. I love to put those together. Mitch has Kyler in the Discord.
In the chat, TJ says with a little devil emoji, Mitch has Kyler in our Discord league. Well, you're going to be getting some interesting offers this week.
Yeah.
We'll stir up some trade talk this week. That's good.
All right, Dan. Good. Sorry to interrupt.
No, all good. Hey, love stacks. I think Burrow, we all agree with, but it was kind of the obvious ones. I think as you look at the postseason, T. Higgins really rose for me. I mean, a little bit into the season, but to me, I think Jamar Chase is the obvious one. T. Higgins is not. I really love what I saw out of T. Higgins this year. I think there's a lot more splash weeks from him. I think Joey Burrow is really good at utilizing that number 2 and getting production out of him. So he's a guy that really solidified himself for me at wide receiver. And then the other stack, I really love what I saw out of Buffalo. I know it's not a surprise. Josh Allen's not a guy that is rising a lot because he was already elite, but he did pass Patrick Mahomes for me. I just really still high on Buffalo and his elite play.
Not just you. Across the board, I believe he has solidified himself as the overall number 1 quarterback and number 1 super flex asset. So I don't think you're on an island there.
The postseason really did it for me. His play and his maturity. Even the way, like the 2 years before I talk about Kyler's body language. Josh Allen pouted a lot towards the end of those games, spiking the ball, throwing a ball at a player. This year, man, he was just poised and I just really think he took such a huge leap. And to build on that theme of stacks, Gabe Davis, man, enough Manny Sanders. It's time. I still love Diggs. Don't get me wrong. I think there's a lot left in Diggs' tank, but Gabe Davis's talent, man, he's 22 years old and he's probably gonna be 23 next year. He's so young and talented. I think he's going to continue to rise.
When we were initially going to do the show, what was it, 2 weeks ago, Mitch? And then I got hit and I was put on the COVID list. Gabriel Davis would have been the talk of the town, right?
Yeah.
4 touchdown game. Everybody. We actually saw folks move 2023 first round picks for Gabriel Davis on multiple occasions. Is that the norm? Absolutely not. We have a fairly large sample size across all of our portfolios, but we did see it from time to time, and it blew my mind. It really did. And I like the players that all of you, both of you guys mentioned, all the entire list. Let me know if you agree with this. So again, I was just kind of rattling off names on my end, but not so much based on his play in their lone playoff game, But based on Mike McDaniel's coming over, based on it seems like I'm looking at Mitch's face. That's why I kind of paused.
Well, you said Mike McDaniels, so I was just running in my head if that was proper or not.
Wait, no. What am I saying?
What are you saying there? Because you're switching teams on us here right
now.
You're going to Miami here. Are you going to Miami on us?
No, I'm going to did I do it? Oh my God.
I was confused because you said McDaniels and you said Mike. I'm like, well, John will get mad at me if I say that.
Holy cow.
Dolphins weren't in the playoffs.
Listen.
We got Ken Dorsey right now in Buffalo. Are you still on the Buffalo?
Listen, just wipe all of that. Josh McDaniels out in Las Vegas. I almost said Oakland there. Holy crap. But Derek Carr, it sounds like he might have the buy-in and support finally. John Gruden didn't really want to commit. He never really wanted to throw that glowing endorsement at Carr. So I think he's somebody that could have risen in value overall, kind of solidifying himself maybe that 18, 19 range, which is certainly higher than it was even mid-season.
Carr,
nobody wants to ever. What was that?
Carr or Cousins?
I'll take Cousins still.
It's close to the same tier, though.
Right next to each other for me.
That's how I see it.
I'm going to watch their off seasons and see how it evolves for each ball club. Now, John Gruden started to come around on Carr. It's just and was a real good offensive coach. Now, Bisaccia kept it together, especially with Ruggs leaving, so that was impressive. I do like the coaching hires. So, but I still kind of remain the same on Carr. It's really what talent's around him. What does it look like from a fantasy perspective? How are they going to run that offense?
For me, it's the perception that maybe he's going to get a little bit more support internally. That's maybe why again, you look at his lone playoff game for the Raiders, not the Dolphins. McDaniels. I yelled at Mitch. I said, listen, you're going to annoy me when you screw this up. And I'm sitting here doing it.
Hey, definitely more stability, JB, to your point there. I mean, this coach is all in right out of the gates with Carr, and they're not coming from that Gruden where, he wants a new toy every other week. I don't think John Gruden was a good organizational, team builder, and there definitely was a split between him and the front office. I think now they've stabilized in Las Vegas.
Looking at my list for risers, not significantly because of where he was already, but Josh Allen solidifying himself. I think Matthew Stafford, just, winning a Super Bowl. Everybody seems to like Matthew Stafford. So I think that's reflected in his, even if it's a slight rise. Gabriel Davis, I had on my list. Cooper Kupp, despite what he did with that fantastic regular season, if you were in trade talks, people were still, and part of it is, he's old. I know he had a fantastic season, but giving me for a discount. I know it's a little gamesmanship, but I do think the postseason kind of solidified him, despite his age, as a top 5 wide receiver asset. Because as silly as it sounds, a lot of people wouldn't have put him there.
For me, he's wide receiver 3 now. He's right after Jefferson. He's after Chase, and he's alone for number 3. There's not one wide receiver I could think I would even put close to him. So there's a big gap for me from wide receiver 3 to wide receiver 4.
And I think that presents a good pivot opportunity. If you personally, Mitch, if you have an AJ Brown, if you have a CD Lamb, if you have a Jalen Waddle, even DJ Moore, Tyreek Hill, DK Metcalf, I think that's an opportunity to maybe maximize value and get a
give it a
return.
month. Give it a month. Let the hype die a little bit.
That's fine. But I think if you wanted to do it today, that could take place. Yeah. We could see that. I had a name on here going with Buffalo, but I think people are still thinking they attack this position in the draft. Devin Singletary. I actually don't think he's risen in value. I'm thinking about it and talking about it.
That's for me, but he hasn't for anybody else.
But that's the perceived value here.
Yeah, I know.
Okay. And then players that dropped in value. This is just... Man, this was the low-hanging fruit that you guys didn't want to grab, but Odell Beckham.
No, that's not fair.
I know. That's why I said the low-hanging fruit. He was playing well. I know, Mitch, you were kind of like, I think he's kind of dust. That's your go-to word.
That was a while ago. I've changed.
Yeah, you've changed. You just said how stubborn you are, and you are. But Odell Beckham, he was playing so well, talking about going back to the Rams, possibly if they would have him and take a discount, not try to price gouge and shop around in free agency. And now he's a 29-year-old receiver that is probably gonna miss most of 2022, right?
Would you?
Now,
I'm gonna flip. Would you take a 3rd round pick for him?
no,
Okay, I did decline that in the league.
no, I wouldn't take a 3rd. Looking here, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I would take an early 3rd. in super flex and tight end premium, I would take an early 3rd. You're pretty much missing an entire season now for a wide receiver that's going to be 30 years old. 2 more that I want to bring up. I can't believe you guys didn't bring this up. Clyde Edwards Alaire.
See, for me, he sucked before, so it doesn't matter now.
but think
What
about
do you do with them?
like and I know there are folks, especially in our Discord. Kev, this is a shout out to you, brother. They would take a bullet for Clyde Edwards-Helaire. And they talk about, his injury and playing through it. Maybe he wasn't 100%, or at least what we were seeing as fans, but it was not promising what we saw. And I actually made a move 2 weeks ago. I moved Edwards-Helaire, 12-team Superflex, tight end premium, Edwards-Helaire for Chase Edmonds and 203. And I felt good with that return.
Yeah.
Nice.
I did.
Dan, Clyde Edwards-Helaire or Leonard Fournette?
Uncle Lenny, baby.
See, that's where I am.
I'm a believer.
I don't think you're going to be alone there.
I really think CH is closer to AJ Dillon as far as dynasty value now.
Yeah,
I have them in the same tier. I agree with.
We're all on the same page there. I have CEH right after Fournette and Michael Carter, and right before AJ Dillon. So he is in that tier, Mitch.
Same here.
And the last group that I think took a complete hit, and I'm not even saying this to get a jab in, I promise you, Dan, the entire Dallas Cowboys organization. Think about it. CeeDee Lamb, all that talk. Well, he's top 3. Now he might be top 5. Now is he top 8? I don't know. Dak Prescott, because of these other quarterbacks at the higher end there, does he drop a little bit? Zeke, take him out to pasture. People are done with him. Tony Pollard, I know people act like Tony Pollard is still a 21-year-old running back. He's going to be, 25?
Mm-hmm.
So it's almost that time for him where he's going to be done. Hold on. Amari Cooper, what's happening with him? I think you could get Amari Cooper for an early second in some situations if they don't think they're contending.
Do you know who I'll disagree with, though? Michael Gallup. Why? Because he'll no longer be on the Cowboys.
He won't be there. He is actually becoming one of my highest rostered players. I think he's going to make an impact and have a significant role in another offense. But Dan, do you want to rebuttal there? Again, this is just based on what we are seeing, the perceived value. You look at trade conversations. You look at different trade polls on Twitter and the Discord, wherever. You look at trade calculators or charts or whatever you want to talk about. Cowboys are coming down, and you have to realize that, right?
I believe it is very correctable. And I think you really have to watch what they do at left guard and center. I cannot tell you how atrocious those 2 positions are on that offensive line. Like, they just did not. They thought they had it fixed, and they did not. They rotated that left guard position all year. They never got stabilized between Connor McGovern and Williams. They're terrible. They are just awful. So if they could fix those 2 positions, Zeke and Pollard, I like them both. I think it's good to have 2 running backs in the NFL. If that offense is firing at all cylinders, which if they fix the O-line, it has the capability of doing. The question is, what does Jerry do with that wide receiver situation? I'm a little nervous that they try to settle and say, hey, because Jerry did this once before when they only had, who was it? Was it like they had Dez and nobody else? They went with 1 receiver and they never had a 2. They've tried to make it with average receivers before.
Were those the Miles Austin days? Or
yeah, I'm hoping they've learned from
trade
that.
for Mike Williams. That was an excellent trade.
You mean not Mike Williams?
Roy Williams.
Yeah. I'm hoping they learned from the past. Just get Amari Cooper the darn ball. Find ways to get CeeDee Lamb the darn ball. Again, they've got to fix the O-line. I like Amari Cooper, whether he's with Dallas or with somebody else. Again, he's a little bit too worried about his swag on Instagram right now, so I'm a little upset with my boy, but I wouldn't panic like you are, JB. Watch and see what they do with that O-line first.
Well, then let me ask you. Looking at the wide receivers, I have to believe that you have Amari Cooper still close to wide receiver 12, right?
He is number 12.
Okay. Then you need to be at 100% rostership over the next week. Because there's no way you don't even have to pay wide receiver 12 price to acquire him. I really believe that you get him for 201, 202, somewhere around there.
I know I'm probably close to 90% rostership as it is, but I will try to get it to 100 for you, JB, in the next week. I'll see what I could do.
But I don't have him at wide receiver 12. There are, let's see, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. Like 16 is fair for me. So we're not, we're in the same ballpark, but we're in different sections. Okay.
It's fair. It's fair. There's some guys I could definitely see. Like again, it's a little bit me just half glass full, like an Amari, like in the Cowboys, but there's a couple guys I could easily put over him.
But I think from a perceived value standpoint, the way the playoffs progressed didn't
help any
too much for the Cowboys. But it did hurt their value. Any other players that you guys just want to throw out before we wrap this up tonight?
You nailed all of mine.
Yeah, Patrick Mahomes lost a little bit of lust. I just throw that out there. And I still love him, and I still love the Kansas City offense, and I'm still going to draft him really high. But there's something fundamentally wrong there. We've seen it just too many times where they have been outcoached, and the offense just disappears. He played bad against Buffalo. Like, I mean, literally in the second half, literally just played bad. So, and we've seen that more than once from him. Or versus the Bengals, in the
I was going to say
half.
75% completion percentage, almost 400 yards, 3 touchdowns, no picks. If that's bad, sign me up. I'll take bad.
First half was good. The volume is still there. So I'm not going to get away from a team with that much volume. And the kid is still talented. I'm not saying he sucks by any means, but he can be stopped. There is some issues. I hope he gets better in the offseason. I hope they improve the wide receiver situation. I hope they can make some adjustments in the offense.
But again, I think that it has more to do with Josh Allen just
as well
playing out of his mind than anything Patrick Mahomes did, I think. But, his last game, 53 passing yards in the Pro Bowl. That is embarrassing. 53 passing yards. All right, Brett says in a 12-team Superflex full PPR, 0.25 PPC, start 12. So a little deeper rosters. Justin Jefferson or Javonte Williams and Hollywood Brown.
Jefferson.
I'll take Justin Jefferson.
Same.
Especially with these reports from very credible sources.
Yeah, right.
That Hollywood Brown is calling it quits.
It's going to be a Twitch streamer.
Yeah.
Makes a whole lot of sense.
Jefferson's elite, man.
Elite.
Final thoughts.
Dan, bring us home, baby. You're back. Final thoughts. It's been 2 months, I think.
It has been a stretch. It feels so good to be back here tonight and back to it. Final thoughts. As we look at prepare for the Dynasty season, we looked at the postseason. We had a nice breakdown tonight. You know how much I look at coaching and organizational impact. I'm going to be watching coaching interviews soon, but how it impacts Dynasty value. So I will be releasing the rankings for our Patreons in the near future here and doing probably a 2-part podcast around it there. And
time out, Dan. I got it.
What? Did I say it wrong again? Go ahead.
It is on the Patreon. It is for our patrons.
Yeah, okay. What JB said. So what JB said, 2 podcasts coming up in the very near future here. I've got my team dysfunction tiers and rankings set. Going to look at the coaching stability. That's been updated. Look a little bit at the coaching culture. Brief 2021 summary. I added some more facts from last season, a little bit of a look ahead, looking at the first round picks that the teams have, and then taking a little dynasty spin and startup trade outlook. So I've expanded the dysfunctional rankings this year, and I'm excited to dive into the teams a little bit more and how it impacts dynasty football.
It's the best time of the year. We made it. We made it. Mitch, what do you got for our listeners here?
All right. So I know a lot of people that listen to the show, they're like the full-time guys, right? Or gals, whoever listens to it. But I would say 90% of your dynasty leagues are dead right now. And people will not start coming back until the NFL Combine starts. And that's what people will start to care. So as dynasty managers, we should start caring now. So for instance, I'm completely okay with saying this. John, you brought up Rashad White in the Discord this week. I pay attention to as much as I possibly can. I love Pac-12 football. I didn't know who Rashad White was until you mentioned him. And
I brought him up in November too. But that's neither here nor there.
I was just gonna say you brought him up in November, and I wasn't even paying attention then. So there's players that you could put in all the time in the world and still not know who they are. Think of the managers who don't put any time in and find out. That's how you stay ahead of the game. Is even though there's might be some that you don't know, but now I do know them because I'm paying attention to the Discord. And so now hopefully I'll learn more from all the fabulous people that are in the Discord, and then I'll know more names and I'll get even better. That's like the whole point of all of this, right?
I love it. And I just want to intervene. You guys will be proud of me. I still have a ton of film to watch, but that Arizona State running back is on my top 40 list here of the first 40 guys I've got to review this offseason. So I'm getting ready to dive in there. And I know you guys are like rookie nuts when it's still postseason. And I'm like, guys, come on. The season's not over yet. So good mention.
I even took a page out of your book, Dan, and I have notes from some film study.
Yes.
And you know, I'm sitting there in my film room grinding the tape. I have it on an old projector or YouTube, either one. All right, we want to thank what was that? What was that?
Are you sure you're not mixing that with Rocky when they were watching the projector with Mickey, or is this never mind?
I wanted you to eat lightning and crap thunder rock. All right. We want to thank everybody for tuning in. If you need more content, and you do, you need more Dynasty Theory content, check out the Patreon, $5 a month. It's free for the rest of February. You'll get a refund instantly. Hit us up for the Discord link if you're looking for more in-depth conversations. We have a lot of fun in there, and we talk a little bit about football. For Mitch Sorensen, Dan Lamagna, I'm John Bauer. We'll catch everybody next week. Peace.